Welcome to the breakout session at this year's Thrive conference. Satisfying relationships and the choices that produce them. Often what we end up thinking is that we are the result of what happens to us. And I want to challenge you and I want you to consider an idea that you are the end result of your choices. And there's certain choices that produce incredible outcomes, and there's certain choices or lack of choices that will leave you in a less than ideal environment. I want to say to you that there are 3 choices that you can make that will increase your satisfaction and will make your life better if you're open to being willing to make these choices. What I would like to do first is to start off and give you an outline of where we're going and then talk about the details in a little bit. If you're watching us online, if you don't already have your Thrive book, you can download this online, and there is a page on there that'll tell you, I'm pretty sure it's page 7. If you go to page 7, this is where you can take notes for this particular breakout session. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an outline, and then after I do that, I'm going to give the people in the audience the opportunity to choose which one we talk about first and which one we spend the most amount of time on. The first thing that I want to talk about is I want to tell you a problem, and then I want to give you the choice that you have to make that will help improve your life. First, disconnection and emotional isolation are the real problem. I want to say that again so you can fill in the blank. Disconnection and emotional isolation are the real problem. I would argue that almost all arguments are really attempts at people to get you to connect and draw close to them, or for you to give them comfort or help them understand something. And if you don't understand what's going on under the surface, you will not be able to solve the right problem. So maintain your influence. If you have children and you want your kids to listen to you or do anything you say, they have to know that you care. They have to be connected to you. The higher the connection, the more people will pay attention to you, the more influence you'll have, and therefore the more you'll enjoy those relationships. The second thing I want to point out to you is that 4 modes make things worse and create an additional problem. There are certain things that we do naturally when we're overwhelmed emotionally. There are things that we do when we're not feeling like we're getting our way, or when we're frustrated, or when things are happening quickly, and those things seem so natural, and we have a choice. What we do is some of us attack people when we get overwhelmed. Some of us defend ourselves and prove that the person has no right to say that kind of thing to us. Others of us withdraw, and sometimes we run, and some people are good at all 4 of those destructive responses. I say that you can make a choice that will change everything, but you have to determine your response in advance. Those of you that are filling in the blanks, I just gave you another one. Determine your response in advance because you get to make that choice. Another thing is you can hear accusations, but whenever you're hearing accusations, it will turn the person that you're talking to into an enemy. Oftentimes, people create protective armor. Some people get a fence, some people get a wall, and some people even get creative things like a moat to keep other people from being able to speak into their world. But if you learn to listen to longings instead of accusations, your business will be more productive, your relationships will be more enjoyable, and you will hear the hearts of the people that you care about, and that will make your joy much better. So there's 3 choices that you can make. One choice is to maintain your influence. One is to determine your response in advance. And then the third one is to learn how to listen to the language of longings. Of those 3 options, for those of you in the room, which one would you like to go at first? So this is the part where you get to speak up and say it. What do you think?
Longings.
Longings. You want to go to longings? Okay. Is everyone okay with us go with longings? So what I want to do is, for a few minutes, talk about longings and the difference between longings and accusations. What ends up happening to people is whenever you're triggered or upset or whenever you're frustrated, something inside of you gets triggered. And when it gets triggered, you lose access to your brain, your hormones rise, your blood pressure goes up, and you don't have access to the part of your brain that can think clearly, come up with creative solutions, and what you do is you get shut down and you get stuck in your secondary emotions. It happens to every single one of us quite often. And whenever a person is frustrated or struggling or something's difficult, they're in anger, frustration, and blame. And that's what people get in when they don't get what they want, when something's happening. And in almost all the conversations that are not going well, the other person is not having clear access to their brain. And they're going to say things in a way that completely come off as accusations. But behind every single accusation is a much deeper longing. And you get to make the choice to which one you hear. You can either hear the person saying to you, there's something wrong with you, you're broken, or you can hear the person making a request from you and expressing something that they want at a heart level, and you get to choose the difference. We all desire approval, and every single person fears rejection. That's what makes relational feedback traumatic, because it threatens two of our deepest needs of security and acceptance. There are times when feedback does include financial threats, like I'm going to fire you. There are times it includes relational threats, like I'm going to leave. But in most cases, defensive arguments or angry responses to feedback that puts us at risk for more than the feedback itself. The way that we respond when people are accusing us causes us way more pain than the actual accusation itself. That's deep, and I want you to think about it. When we get defensive, it is our destructive behavior that causes the other person to increase the intensity so that they can penetrate our defenses. The harsh comments, the deep wounds almost always come after we try to block people and prevent them from telling us what they ultimately really want. The heartache and the long-term trauma can be avoided if we learn how to respond to people in productive ways. What I want to do is kind of slow down and help you to create an environment that will make it possible for you not only to have satisfying relationships, but to be able to have shared purpose where you get two people working together to solve the problems. And the choice that you have to make is you have to decide, I am not going to see you as the enemy. I am not going to see you as someone that is trying to hurt me and destroy me and prevent me from everything I really want. You get to choose if you see somebody as a person that has essential things inside them and you're going to listen to. And I'm not telling you to do this to every person. But what I am telling you is the important people in your life, if you see them as the enemy, you will naturally treat them as the enemy. And you are not at war. At least we don't want you to be at war. What you can do will change everything if you just learn to listen to what they're saying, not what they're accusing you of. If it's true that behind every accusation is a much deeper longing, then how in the world do you do it in real time? How do you do it in a situation when they're overwhelmed and probably you're overwhelmed and there's frustration going on, and if you're a parent, maybe your kid's acting in a destructive way and they're doing something that is causing you pain and you want to make sure that they do that, and all of a sudden they're talking to you and they're accusing you of being a bad parent. Now, we're going to slow down and we're going to talk to you about ways to do that. The first thing that's been really helpful for me is to pay attention to the common longings that people have. There are 8 common longings that people have, and they're super important. 4 of them apply more to men, 4 apply more to women. Every single person has all 4. I want to divide them up into 2 categories. The ones that go primarily to women are about security, and for men it's about significance. Most men care about significance and what they accomplish at a really important high level, and most women are wanting to know how they're connected, and they want to know about how they can feel safe and secure. So as I show you these, and you don't have to worry about it, I'll give you a green handout, and with that handout you can see all of these different longings. Get to know the common longings, and then you'll be able to identify how to experience it. I see longings as those 2 primary categories I told you about. We need to know that we can trust the people that we rely on, and we can care about the people that reach out to us. But we also need to know that there's a difference between what some people want and what we might be hearing. There are people that want excitement and adventure, and there's other people that want predictability and routine, and we have to learn to pay attention to the two. As much as we need both of those things, we need to explore, but there has to be a safe environment for that to happen. Okay, I'm going to give you these quickly. Acceptance. And here's the question that people are answering under the surface. Do I belong? I'm longing for someone to include me and make sure that they care about me, and they're wondering, am I alone? Attention, do you notice me? I'm longing for someone to stop what they're doing and see me, and I want someone to know that I am worthy of your time. Affection, do you delight in me? Just think about how cool it is when somebody actually takes great joy in you. I'm longing for someone to light me up, to see me. I am terribly afraid that somebody really doesn't love me. Approval. Do you see something good in me? Oftentimes when we're talking to our kids or people at work, and what they're really wanting to know is there anything good about me? And that'll undermine every single conversation if we don't learn to look under the surface. For guys, we are so about accomplishment and significance. We are wondering, does anyone respect me? So the first longing for guys is respect. Do I matter? I'm longing to make a positive impact on this world. I want to contribute something. Competence. Do you value my contribution? I want to be seen as capable, especially in the things that are most important to me. And if you don't understand this with the guy, oftentimes he will hear you telling him that you're not respectable and there's nothing really worthy about you and you don't accomplish anything significant, and you won't even be talking about the same thing. But imagine being able to get under that surface and understand what's going on so the person can slow down. Oh, it's cool. The last two are importance. Am I important? Do you appreciate me and the things I bring to the table? I'm longing for someone to see me as important, and I'm afraid I'm not enough. The last one, it's true for everyone, but especially true for guys. It's the longing for adventure. Do I get to experience something meaningful? I want to be seen by other people as a courageous person willing to take risks. I'm longing to overcome obstacles and to be fully alive. I'm afraid I will have to have a routine existence. In conclusion, as I talk to you about this, and I'm going to give you some strategies how to do it in just a second, but you don't have to see the person as a dangerous enemy, and you don't have to protect yourself from them. You are not at war, and no one needs to lose the battle. You can take down your fences, get rid of your walls, remove your armor. You can put away your weapons and work together in a collaborative alliance with a teammate to accomplish shared purpose. When other people give us feedback, they are giving us the rare opportunity to learn and grow, and the rare privilege to connect with an important person's heart and to understand what's going on in their world and help make sense of their actions. They carry inside them deep, driving longings at the core of every single thing they do. You can respond in productive ways by hearing their heart, providing them a safe environment to share their concerns, by being present, available, receptive, and if you do, it will make you more productive at work. It will allow the people that work for you, if you're the employer, to share their real concerns, because if all you ever hear is accusations, they will resist you every single step of the way. Okay, first thing that you can do is to help to understand common longings. And you can learn to shift your perspective, so instead of hearing accusations, I'm going to hear longings. For some of us, we need to get kind of basic, and we need to realize that, hey, I need something more practical than that. Here's the first step, is to have the awareness that you do it. Pay attention to the conversations you have, and here's an assignment for you for the next week, is how many times do you get defensive? If you get defensive, you are always protecting yourself. I want to say that again, okay? The reason that people get defensive is they're protecting themselves for something. And if you're not aware that you do it, the people around you will not feel comfortable around you. And not only that, they won't share essential information that'll make your family better, make your company better, and make other things in life better. So you have to gain an awareness of what you do. On the handout that you get, it'll have some assignments that you can do to discover what you are protecting yourself from, what it is that you get defensive from. So make sure that you download the sheet, the worksheet online. You can just find it on Plymouth Covenant Church under Thrive. So first you got to create an awareness. You have to learn how to listen to longings instead of accusations. Here's something really basic. You have to learn how to receive people's thoughts. And it has to do with the language that you use. Demonstrate that you want to know more about what they feel by inviting them to share. If you discipline yourself to slow down your instruction, wisdom, and agenda, this is especially important for us guys, okay? We are focused on giving them instructions, wisdom, and promoting our point, making sure they catch what we need to teach them before we hear what they have to say. But if you truly listen to a person, it will communicate volumes. Few things in life have greater positive impact or professional or personal relationships than learning how to acknowledge and validate others. I'm going to give you some receiving language that if you just learn how to speak this vocabulary, it will make your life significantly more satisfying. Here's a few examples. That sounds important. Take your time. Would you repeat that? Can you imagine if someone said something to you when you had something important at work? And you come up to your boss, you're afraid, you're nervous, and you want to say something because you're taking a risk because the company could be improved. And your boss responds by telling you, wait a second, that sounds important. Take your time. I want to hear it. Normally what we do is we take it as an accusation, as somebody trying to prove that our character's bad or our company's messed up, and we stop them and silence them immediately. And what I want to say, if you can just learn receiving language. I could just get so excited about that and talk about that in powerful ways. Here's a couple more things you can say. Yes, and I'm listening. I want to understand. I want to hear you. I think we have common ground. I never thought of it that way. If you can acknowledge and validate what a person is saying, you will get to the real concern. I want to warn you, okay, that people will not often get to what's really important until they feel like we're listening. People are at work, people at home, your kids, your parents. So many people in your relationships aren't going to tell you what they really want because they're convinced you're not listening anyway. I don't know about you, but I want the people that I care about to know that I am there for them. I have their best interests at heart. And the powerful way you can do that is learn how to listen to their longings. Let me give you an example, okay? Someone comes up to you. Let's say you're married, and your partner comes up to you and says, I'm going to ask you so you're ready for this, okay? Got to warn you. They come up to you and they say this to you. You prioritize everyone else but me. Everyone else gets the best of you, and all I ever get is the leftovers, which is an accusation. What is the deeper longing behind it? They want attention, right? What did you going to say? They want your time. They want to be with you. See, here's the cool part about it. Often when you get past the accusation to the longing, that's the part you were hoping to hear all along. How many of you would want your kids to actually say, I want to spend time with you? But if we block it at the accusation point, and we get to choose, you can decide if it's an enemy or if it's an ally. You can decide if it's someone I'm going to put up a wall or if it's someone that I'm going to let in. The harder they have to push to get in, the less they will reach out to you and the less often they're going to keep trying. And the bigger the wall and the more our defenses, the more intensity they're going to have to get past that wall. Here's one that's kind of challenging and really difficult is if you learn how to listen to the language of longings and you want the other people to kind of calm down a little bit, this will help tremendously. And only courageous people are willing to do it, is to take ownership for your part. But if you're defending yourself before you hear it, how do you know what they want you to do? If you listen and you hear their heart and you understand and you're willing to take ownership for your part, and it's not as hard as people make it out to be. Pretty much all you have to do is own it, apologize for it, and then make things right. Okay? But taking that step will make your relationships better. Own it, apologize for it, make things right. Let me give you some blocking language that you can use, okay? Just like there's receiving language, there's blocking language. Most people that block people out don't even know that they're doing it. Sometimes you don't mean to block people out. Other times you don't understand the long-term damage of defending yourself can cause. Other times you want to change their mind, protect yourself. You want it to have all kinds of different forms. Sometimes you block subtly by saying yes, but, or what about when? Sometimes we block by arguing the facts. No, it's not true. I don't agree. I won't accept that. Other times we block by saying that's ridiculous. You're one to talk. Why do you have to see me in such a bad light? All of these statements prevent the other person from being heard and understood. It's hard to be close to someone who silences you and calls you crazy. Let me say that again, okay? It is hard to be close to you if you silence them and call them crazy. You will lose out on vital information that will help your business because people in your company will withhold essential details that would make everything better and will improve the company, okay? You will also miss out on the breakthroughs in your relationship with your kids, your parents, your friends, if you don't learn how to stop blocking. Here's the decision that we need to make. Instead of hearing accusations, learn how to see past those accusations to the longings that are much deeper. And by the way, that's what people are really saying. What people are really saying is what they want to be close, they want to be connected, they want you to hear their heart. Okay, we're going to do the second one now, which is that you get to make a decision to determine your response. The farther in advance that you make the decision, the better off it is. If you wait until the last moment, you will not be able to carry it out. Whenever we're triggered, whenever we're frustrated, whenever we're upset, there are 4 typical modes that people get in. Most people do not believe that they get to choose what mode they're in. The 4 modes that you can be in, and it seems so natural to us, is we can be in attack mode, defense mode, we can be in withdraw mode, or freeze mode. I want to kind of slowly go at each one of those 2. When you're in attack mode, what you tend to do is you assign blame, make sure other people see their faults and shortcomings, okay? You criticize the person. Sometimes you criticize their motives. Sometimes you criticize their actions. Sometimes you criticize their feelings, but what you do is you attack them. Whenever someone attacks us, it always terrifies us and scares us. We'll talk about that in just a second. The insight, most people don't want to hurt other people. They just want people to see their perspective. But if you attack someone else, they will leave the encounter feeling blamed and vulnerable and unsafe, okay? So the first common normal response for a person is to attack. The opposite side of the same coin is to defend. And whenever you defend, you deny responsibility or you defend your actions, okay? So what ends up happening is it's natural to us. And here's what we think, is the reason I'm defending myself is because they are attacking me. I want to talk to you about that. You don't have to defend yourself, no matter what anyone else says. The third mode that is destructive is to withdraw or flee. And if you withdraw or flee, you're going to cause some problems. What you do is you pull away, create emotional or physical distance, you isolate yourself, and you punish the other person with your silence. You close off the conversation, and the other person doesn't get to have anything to say. So first is attack, second is defend, Third is withdraw, and the last is to freeze. Oftentimes people freeze for two reasons. One is they don't feel like they can do anything that will be productive and make things better, or they've experienced some kind of trauma. But when you freeze, you don't do anything. And when you don't do anything, nothing gets better. Insight, most people freeze when they're overwhelmed and they're feeling helpless, like their actions don't matter. Now, I want to introduce you to an idea that you can be in a different mode. This is kind of a crazy thought, but you can be in a different mode. Anytime you respond to any one of those four modes, what ends up happening is you not only don't solve the original problem, you create a secondary problem. So you started with somebody feeling something, and now all of a sudden you've escalated the problem that was already there, and you have a secondary problem that is bigger, richer, and worse. The way it worked in my particular situation was my wife, who's the person I care about the most, would feel either sad or disappointed or lonely, and she would come to talk to me. I would hear her attacking me, so what I would do is I would defend myself. So we started with us not being close, and then all of a sudden, not only are we close, but now she doesn't have any voice. Then, when that didn't work, what I would do is withdraw and pull away, which caused a third problem, and that's how it works. I start with one, I end up with three. And I thought it had nothing to do with me. What I want to suggest to you is you get to choose what mode you're in. You don't have to attack. You don't have to defend. You don't have to withdraw. You don't have to freeze. You get the opportunity to do something else. And I'm going to present it to you in a way that will hopefully help you make sense. In order for any kind of an activity to be loving, three things have to be simultaneously present. I'm a visual person, so I'm going to move a little bit to help you see this. First, you have to be moving in the right direction, okay? You have to be willing to try to connect with the person. You have to be close enough in proximity, and you have to have the desire to make a connection with the person. That's moving in the right direction, which means you're moving towards them, okay? That has to be there for any encounter to be loving. The second one is you have to be available, you have to be receptive, and you have to be willing to be influenced. If you're not, the other person will automatically resist everything else you do. The first is the direction. You have to be moving towards them. The second one is you have to be receptive, which is called receptivity. The third dimension that is absolutely essential for any kind of loving encounter is you have to pay attention to the impact you're going to have. I'm going to say it to you in two different ways. If you're loving, kind, or patient, you're going to leave a great impact. If you're harsh, critical, or mean, the impact you're going to leave is going to be miserable. Now let me show you how this works, okay? I'm going to slow down. First, you have to be moving the right direction. Second, you have to be available and receptive. One you're moving towards. Second one, you have to be receiving and be willing to be influenced by the other one. The third is you have to care about the impact that you have. Now, if I attack a person, and I'm moving in the right direction, but I'm being harsh and critical and mean, which means I am not leaving the right impact. Now, with direction, receptivity, or impact, when I am running or avoiding them or silencing them, what is wrong with that? What essential dimension of love is missing? This is the part where you respond. I'm not receptive, right? I'm not having receptivity, right? Whenever you defend yourself, you're not available, you're not receptive, and your person that's important in your business or your friend or your kid or your spouse doesn't have the ability to influence you is why it doesn't work, okay? If I'm moving towards you because I want to have a relationship, but I'm screaming and yelling at you, I am not going to leave the right impact. Now, if you're open to it, I want to take it to an entirely different dimension, which will make your relationship satisfactory. What we tend to do whenever we see a person that's in the wrong mode is we point it out. One of my cool friends, Clay, happens to be here now, and if Clay does something to me and it is wrong, where he's quiet, which he never is, or he withdraws, and then I point it out and say, you're in the wrong mode, you're withdrawing, You are quiet. We can't have a good relationship as long as you're doing that. Okay? That is not going to work, and that's not what I'm suggesting. I'm not saying that you identify the 4 modes so that you can point it out in the people that you care about. That will undermine everything we're trying to help you with. That'll make your relationships unproductive, and you won't be satisfied. Okay? But imagine if you think about what's it like to be on the other side of me. Jesus said it so powerfully. He said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And if you do this to this one mode, can you imagine how cool it would be? Watch this. If the person that you care about attacks you, then ask yourself the question, what's it like to be on the other side of me? Am I ever invalidating or defending or not taking ownership for my actions? It takes courage to ask that question, doesn't it? It takes courage to ask that because it's so much easier to blame the other person. If the person that you care about at work is ever defending themselves, okay, then you have to ask yourself the question, what's it like to be on the other side of me? What is it about me that makes it hard for them to stay in a conversation? Do I ever attack them, push through boundaries? Do I ever blame them? Do you see how powerful this is? I'm telling you, if you just decide what mode you're going to be in, okay, and I haven't told you what mode. Some people call it approach mode. I like to call it operative mode. And operative mode means the best mode to produce the right outcome. Operative mode, approach mode is when I'm moving in the right direction, when I'm available and receptive, and when I care about the impact I'm going to leave. And I get to choose. And it's the coolest thing ever because here's what I get to do. I'm going to be in approach mode and operative mode. You be whatever you want. I am not going to make it worse. And not only am I not going to make it worse, I'm not going to create an additional problem or 2 or 3 or 4, which is going to produce satisfying relationships. And it comes down to one single decision. I'm going to determine my response by choosing which mode I'm going to be in. I'm going to be in operative mode, approach mode. You be whatever you want. If you're attacking me, I want to pay attention to what's going on so that I can receive what you're saying. If you're defending yourself, I'm going to pay attention to myself. Instead of trying to blame someone else that you don't have any control over, you can have much more satisfying relationships if you decide what mode you're going to be in. With the rest of our time, I want to talk about something that is so powerful, and it's just changed the way that I view all relationships. And it's helped so much. And what I want to talk about is connection is the most important ingredient when it comes to relationships. If you are connected, you can discuss things and you can accomplish communication. And if you're not, it's miserable. Back when I lived in Colorado, I had a pickup truck. And the pickup truck I had was low on oil, and I did not stop to get oil, and I'm driving down the freeway, and all of a sudden I hear this vicious, hammering, miserable, pounding sound that was just so traumatic. It was just boom, 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 and it was so intense, it was like terrifying, and then all of a sudden the motor seized up, and I couldn't go anywhere. And what I want you to think of connection as the oil that lubricates all the friction. And the way that we get friction is we have different personalities, we have different families of origins, we have different opinions that we want to get across. We have different hurts, fears, vulnerabilities, and all of those things cause friction. And connection is the one ingredient that lubricates it so that you have the potential to be able to be close. And what I want you to think about it is look at the relationships you have. Look at your business partners. Look at your kids. Look at your friends. The amount of connection that you have will determine how satisfying your relationships are. When you're connected, you have internal feeling that the person you care about is present, available, and receptive. The person is there for me. I can trust them. Some people have developed an extraordinarily strong connection, and they're able to talk about everything. Most arguments are unsuccessful protests over emotional disconnection and failed attempts to connect. In order to solve the problem, we must address the central need for connection and the desperate fear of losing it. Disconnection and emotional isolation are the real problem. We long for companionship and comfort from the people we care about, and it is unbelievably painful when either one of those things remain elusive. How do you create connection? How do you repair it once it's damaged? If your car is out of oil, I wouldn't recommend that you put some tape across the dash. I would suggest to you that unless you put oil in the car, the engine's going to blow. And unless you have connection, your relationship is going to get to the point where everything is so much friction that every single thing becomes a problem. If you're not connected, you can't even decide where to go to dinner. If you're in a company and you're not connected, you cannot make the most simple, basic decisions. And if you learn how to build connection, it will change everything. First thing that you have to do is create a safe environment for the other person to connect with you. You have to create a safe environment for the other person to connect with you. Two essential ingredients to have connection are trust and vulnerability. And if you don't have trust and you don't have vulnerability, people will not be connected to you. When safety is not present, there are two essential ingredients that cause it. It will cause you heartache. People will be guarded, fearful, suspicious, defensive, avoid you, and resist everything important to you. You will walk on eggshells, and they will walk on eggshells, and they will not share their true feelings or their concerns, and it will be miserable. Trust is the deep conviction that the other person has my genuine interest at heart. I'll give you a couple things that will undermine trust. Judgment, rejection, shame, threats, condemnation, and harsh criticism. If you constantly evaluate someone else, they will resist you, and you won't have any joy in your relationships. That will break trust and create an unsafe environment. The other essential ingredient is vulnerability. And in order to have vulnerability, you have to avoid silence, withdrawal, defensiveness, unwillingness to open up. If you never share anything about yourself and you're not vulnerable, it is not just creating a great environment. The other person will not be close to you because they don't know you. In order to be close to someone, you have to know who they are. There's 4 ways to increase safety. Develop your own character, which means be predictable, reliable, honest. Cultivate compassion and empathy. Reinforce your commitment in the relationship. It's amazing if you're having an argument with your spouse and things aren't going well and you just say this simple thing. You know what? We don't have it all figured out right now, but I'm committed to you and I'm committed to this relationship. If you're having struggle with your kids and you say to them, you know what? Even though we're not seeing eye to eye right now, I want you to know I'm always going to be there for you. The last thing that really helps you is to be responsive and emotionally available. If you can just be present with the people that you care about, it will change everything. This is the one that's really important for guys. It's important for everybody, but it's especially important for guys, is playful interactions and having fun together. I cannot overstate how much this is. Laughter and fun and playful environments, the Bible says this way, laughter is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Connection is the glue that holds everything together. When you have fun together, you're building positive memories. So, set aside some time to have fun. You don't need to be serious every moment. It is worth it to go on vacation. It is worth it to do something that you both will enjoy. It is worth it to do team-building activities at work, because the more connected you are, the more you'll be able to solve problems, and you'll be in a better place and a better state of mind to be able to resolve conflict. What I'm going to ask you to do now, if you're in the audience, is we're going to do something really silly where we're going to sing karaoke songs. And I know one of the people in this room is really good. I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that to you. But to be silly and ridiculous and let your hair down and act stupid might be one of the best things you could do to build connection in the relationship. Because if you don't ever have fun, who's going to want to be around you? So what I'm suggesting to you is, if you build connection by creating a safe environment, and by having playful interactions, everybody else is going to want to spend time in your presence. And if you're so busy that you don't have fun in your relationships, you might want to change that. You can do it by choosing the thoughts you have. The thoughts that go in your mind is not like watching TV where they just randomly come in. The thoughts you have are a series of choices you make. And here's what I know. If you have a negative thought, negative thought, negative thought, negative thought, I guarantee you the next thought that's going to come through your mind is a negative thought. What ends up happening to us is when we're with the people and they're frustrating, disappointing us, they've not done what we want, they're not measuring up to our expectations, we think about everything that they do wrong, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And if you don't believe me, have an argument with somebody important to you, go in the other room and blame them and list off all the bad things. Not only will you be miserable, but it will never get where you want. But if you simply change your thought process and write down 10 things you really appreciate about them or really value, that simple choice will change the connection that you have. And one of the things I've known, if people aren't connected, they can't resolve anything. Here's a cool one, is to learn how to complete conversations. Every single time you bring something up important or somebody else brings something up important and you never come to a conclusion, and a conclusion is when you have two people working as collaborative teammates to solve the actual problem, that builds powerful connection. So if you've had the same conversation over and over, take the time and invest it so that you can solve those things and become problem-solving teammates. The last two I'm going to talk about, I'm going to spend the most time on because I think that we don't know how to do these. One is we have to learn how to repair the hurt that we've caused. Oftentimes, if you've hurt the people you care about, it will not go away. You have to rebuild trust, and you have to create an environment where they're vulnerable and willing to share you and experience the real you. So I would suggest that you have to learn how to do that. It's impossible to avoid arguments and keep people from hurting them, and it's impossible to keep from hurting the people we care about, but we have to learn how to repair the damage we've caused. We can repair relationship and connect with the person we care about by apologizing, forgiving, and restoring the connection, and that's essential. The key to not allowing arguments to destroy your relationship is to heal the hurts and reestablish the connection. Unresolved hurts cause damage to your connection. The longer the hurt remains unresolved, the more damage to the connection and more inability you'll have. So, learn how to apologize. I did it. I was wrong. I said insensitive words and they hurt you. I'm not asking you to grovel and to be a complete loser, but what I am suggesting to you is if you don't have the connection, try repairing the hurt that you caused. The thing that makes it so hard is that the hurt we've caused is usually higher and richer on the other person and less to us, and here's why. Whenever it comes to hurts, what we do is we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. So what we do is we look at ourselves through the lens of our intentions and what we hope to accomplish. What we do with other people is we look through the lens of what they actually said and how it made us feel. So what we do is we make ourselves look better and we make other people look worse. When other people hurt us, they will not be able to speak to us the exact way we want. And that's what I'm going to transition into the last thing. Is the two best ways to restore the connection is to repair the hurts. And the one that is so important to me and the one that most people don't understand is how to receive the repair attempts of other people. I was a coach for a lot of years for baseball, and one particular year I got to coach my son's 17-year-old baseball team, and there was somebody in the audience that was a dad. None of the other coaches were here, and he said, "Can I help?" And I said, "Sure, why don't you stand right next to me and you catch the fly balls as the kids knock them in, or as the kids throw them in." 17-year-old kids can throw baseball pretty hard. So I was hitting fly balls, and these kids were firing it back, and all of a sudden, one baseball comes whipping by my head. It almost hit me in the head, and then from then on, I was paying attention. So I looked to watch, and this guy couldn't catch it all. He couldn't catch a baseball. And if I wasn't paying attention, it would have hit me right in the head, and I probably wouldn't be standing here today. But here's what I want you to think about, is it was dangerous in that moment, but not receiving the attempts to repair a relationship is way more dangerous. Because anytime a person tries to repair a relationship with you, takes a step towards you, and you don't receive it, you will communicate to them that I reject you. You're not important to me, and you do not matter. So when other people are attempting to repair the connection, you have to learn how to receive it. It's not as hard as you think. All you have to do is either acknowledge it, okay, which is one. Demonstrate to the person that you have heard what they say, and if you can, receive it. You don't have to receive it unless it's there, but you have to at least acknowledge it. Let me give you some examples. Okay, people are trying to repair their relationship by acknowledging their mistakes or apologizing, by reaching out to grab your hand or give you a hug. They're trying to smile and laugh by doing something nice for you. And see, the problem is we don't see what they're doing and we miss out on the connection, and we unintentionally undermine all our relationships because we're not willing to receive it, because it's not the level that we need it to be, because it hurt us and we felt it. But what we have to learn how to do is receive it. Let me give you some more. Begin a casual conversation. Oftentimes, that's how people try to repair the relationship, but we don't know that's what they're doing. Okay? They invite you to spend time with them. They give you a thoughtful gift, speak affirming words, reach out and ask you for support or ask for help. Unless we receive the attempts, they will assume that we don't care about them and we have rejected them. If we want our parents to help with our homework, we normally say, I have to figure things out by myself. Or, there's no one who could do my homework. Our parents have no idea what we want. They leave the encounter feeling stupid and inadequate. We often are looking for the expression of love in a way that is different from what the other people are offering. As I close up this, I want to say that your choices will determine your outcomes. And you can have satisfying relationships, but you have to determine to maintain influence by your acceptance, by your understanding, by your compassion. You get to decide what mode you're going to be in. And I would encourage you to stay in approach mode or operative mode, because that is the only one that will restore relationships. And the last thing is to learn how to see connection as the real problem. Dear God, I thank you for the opportunity to talk about relationships. And my prayer is that we would get to experience incredibly joyful ones. Help us to not focus on the enemy, but focus on ourselves and make decisions that create collaborative environments with allies. Thank you, God, for the cool privilege of talking about the important matters of the heart. In Jesus' precious and holy name, amen.